guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies, and you know they are really groovy. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies, and we know they are really groovy.
Hello, hello, everybody. And that was, of course, Diane Call, who wrote and performed that song. And here we are. We're talking about David Lynch, who's Rory's favorite director of all times. We know that Rory and we're going to get into that. Okay, so I think it was Manny who came
Nice
up with
David
this
Bowie
idea. Is it Manny? Was it you that brought David Lynch, or was it Elana?
Actually,
It was
it was
mine.
our guest. It was
Okay,
Elana.
Elana. Okay, so take us away right out of the gate. Why do you love David Lynch? Why did you suggest him?
Okay. I have been a huge David Lynch fan since 1989, and that is, I joke because that is when Twin Peaks was supposed to start airing. I started watching it as a teenager, and there was nothing on like that, and we didn't have, like, TV was very cookie cutter. And so to see that, it really helped to shape who I am. So I have an MFA in dramaturgy, which is the study of theater. And I did a specialty in performance art. So I was so taken with him and with his different way to look at cinema and what cinema can do, and we'll talk about that later, that I just was so excited about everything. I wanted to be I wanted to be a performance art professor. That's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do films and some other things, and I just find him so inspirational. And it's interesting to me because I've watched a lot of these movies in my 20s or my teens, and now I watch them again I'll just say I'm 50. And I've experienced so many different things, and they move with you. And I really wasn't sure what to expect. I wasn't sure if I was going to think, okay, well, these are silly notions that I had, in grad school, or if I was like, I understand something I didn't understand before. And I'm going through a very surreal time in my life right now due to a chronic illness. And I felt like he was talking to me. And I felt like I had such an understanding of things, like, we'll just use the example of Lost Highway. I didn't know what was going on the first time I saw it. I saw it in a movie theater. My friends were like, that was cool. I'm like, yeah, I liked it. I didn't know why. And this time, it's on my top 5. It spoke to me. It really made me understand something. And I think you have to kind of leave. I was taught how to watch film in a different way. And so I think I have that advantage. I'm not expecting things to be linear. I'm not, I know that when I approach certain films or plays or wherever I'm going, I need to leave my suspension of disbelief at the door. And with him, you just let it wash over you. And I'm the kind of person also that is thinking all of the time. And I love just kind of giving that to him for 2-3 hours. And then thinking, okay, we'll just sit with that, which was a luxury that I got to do this time. So I make up for any negative feelings that Rory has towards it.
I feel like I shouldn't even speak this show after that.
Disagreeing is the best.
But yes, as far as the movie experience goes, when I go to a movie, I am a linear thinker. And the first movie I saw of his was Dune. and I was working in a movie theater at the time, and it followed closely thereafter by Blue Velvet. And on both cases, I was like, what the F did I just see?
Yeah. Well, you started with Dune.
Nowadays, you got to pay,
That's the
what, $17
problem.
to go see a movie? So it's like, I'm not going to want a Mulholland Drive, for $17. That's going to piss me off. I'm sorry. I don't want to have to sit there and analyze every second of going, what the, So I am not a fan, is what I'm saying. There are some movies he shows that he can actually tell a story and, not change the actor midway through the movie. And by the way, there are things about him that I really do love, like his use of sound on his soundtracks for his movies, the way he weaves music, special music, and sound effects into the story he's telling. I really dig that. I love the fact that he helps actors out. He helped Richard Pryor out with his last film role. Robert Blake was really creepy and interesting in Lost Highway, but again, that movie was just off the chain weird. But Elephant Man, unbelievable movie. Just a fantastic story film, and his character work is really good. Jack Nance, who was Eraserhead, has been in almost all of his films until Jack died. He was an alcoholic, and he always had a job.
Yeah,
he always had a job thanks to David Lynch. So you got to admire the guy for a lot of things. But yeah, when I go to see his movies, I'm not expecting a story anymore that that moves me from point A to point B. I'm just like, okay, just sit back and see what the hell he's going to throw at you. See what happens.
That was such an interesting thing that I found about rewatching his movies, and I actually rewatched them like all weekend.
Yeah.
I started
Me too.
with Inland Empire, which I love, but it's a really tough one. 3 hours. It is really slow paced, and we'll talk about it more, so I don't want to give it away. But he almost, like, if you look at what was happening, like you were saying, he was helping the actors.
Yeah.
He was before the Me Too movement. Like, what was that, a decade before the Me Too movement? That's what Inland Empire is about. And if you can get to that point, because there's so many different layers of consciousness that he's dealing with, right? So not everybody can like just sit down and watch it, right? Again, I've been a fan since I was 14, 15, and I'm 50. So like watching Inland Empire is a very different watch right now. It's extremely different. But when I saw that, it was like, oh my God, he's talking about what is happening right now and the horrors. Like, I'm obsessed with the LA trilogy because he's telling people what's happening before anybody was willing to stand behind anybody. I mean, he really helped his actors in just so many ways and took a role in their lives and became their family. And he uses the same actors over and over. And I've never heard a negative thing about him. Yeah. And I mean, that is a beautiful thing, especially when we look at, you know, what's happening now with, I mean, how many directors are there that you can actually look at and say, I know that that is a good person and I appreciate his work. I'm inspired by him and I get to feel good about that.
There's a couple, actually. Clint Eastwood likes to use a lot of the same actors. Tim Burton likes to use a lot of the same people. Definitely helped Paul Rubens out a lot in his career.
Yeah. There's a lot of directors to do who use the same people over and over.
If you like working with someone, you call them back out. You know, so you see Dean Stockwell and Harry Dean Stanton, and others pop in and out of
Tom McLaughlin.
Robert Lange was so upset that he did not get the role that Robert Blake got in Lost Highway, that his tirade ended up in what was the one after it?
Oh, he was in Lost Highway. Wasn't he the villain in Lost Highway?
Was it Mulholland? It was. What's the one that goes from Bill Pullman to the
Lost
other actor?
Highway.
That's
Lost Highway.
That's Lost
that was
Highway.
Lost Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the villain in Lost Highway.
Okay, well, he wanted Robert Blake's role, and he was so upset that he didn't get it that he got the other role, and his tirade was the scene where the guy, he smashes in the back of the guy's car and pulls him out of his car, and
right? Doesn't that make you like him more? Like, I'm like, you go, David Lynch. Like, everything's used. You know, like I like that part too. Like he has an idea, and he uses everything. Like there's a story of a moth attaching itself to a painting, which is right. He's a painter first, and so the moth is flapping around, and he's fascinated with moving pictures and paintings, and that's how this all got started. So it's like every single thing, everything has a place. I think
even a family of cryptic bunnies watching TV together.
I'm sorry?
Even a family of cryptic bunnies watching TV together. So anyway, we do a top 5 list. Mine's just going to be 5. And then after that, we do what's called, quote, honorable mentions. My list is just mentions.
Okay.
But you guys knock yourself.
I think that's important because my
Yeah.
honorable mentions are not exact. Well, you'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's traditional on the show that our guest always goes first.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Alana, why don't you give us your number one? We go from 1 to 5. So, what's your number one?
I counted the 1990 pilot and television show as a unit because the pilot is technically a movie, and so that was my number one.
Twin Peaks. Okay.
Yeah.
And why?
Well, I mean, you guys could see how I lit up when I was explaining it. You know, the fact that there was nothing like that. And then all of a sudden, you know, everybody kept saying that they were expecting him to walk in the room and he would be some like creepy kind of presence. And I have to be honest. I think my brain works like his a lot. And I think that there's certain, like, I feel kind of like I don't like to use this word, but kinship almost, you know, like you're normal and you pass as normal in the world, but you're like in your brain is doing crazy things. Like you see just, you know, and it's not a mental health issue. Fortunately, it's just I have a very active imagination, and to be 16 and have that be on television. And also, if you think about what that led to, I mean, television now is such a viable medium. It was not before at all. It was like where actors went to die. So now, I mean, that was a huge thing.
Well, I have to agree. I remember when the show debuted, and you're right. It was like nothing we'd ever seen. Television wasn't a serial type medium. It was very episodic, you know, it was like an episode at a time. And soap, we saw episodes or that kind of storytelling in soap operas. It was sort of committed to that, but very rarely on prime time, unless it was like a mini series or whatever. But a regular series with a continuing storyline, and it being this murder mystery of, you know, who killed Laura Palmer. And then Kyle MacLachlan shows up, who I recognize from Dune. It's like, it's the guy from Dune. And then all the crazy characters, the log lady and the tall man, and, you know, all just, it just got, of course, weirder and weirder. And even David Lynch himself appeared in the
Yeah.
in the episode, and David Duchovny in drag,
Oh, that was
who would later go on,
so ahead of his time. Like,
yeah.
that was unheard of in
I've said this
1991,
many
I guess.
times, but I was always so disappointed that there was no crossover between the X-Files and Twin Peaks. I feel like
Oh
there
my
should have been
God.
like,
See, I'm a huge X-Files fan.
I am too.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
felt like there should have been, even if it was just like Mulder going up to Skinner's office and Kyle MacLachlan walking out as his
Oh,
character, and then kind of
that
greeting
would
each other.
be.
That I would have
We can
I would have
dream.
died. We can dream. In my head, that happened at some point.
That would
So
be amazing.
anyway, but yes,
and Chris Carter, and Chris
and-
Carter actually, I'm
yeah.
the biggest X-Files geek.
Yeah, there was supposed to be a crossover between X-Files and Picket Fences, but because it was on a different network,
wow.
that never happened.
Right.
So anyway, okay. Rory, why don't you give us your number one?
But before we move on, I want to know, because I've never watched the series, how does it stack up to Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me?
I love that. Okay, not at all.
Yeah,
It doesn't stack up at all, because I was a little disappointed with it, because I've always heard Twin Peaks was a great show and the character work on it is fantastic, and I just never got it. I never got to watch it. I was just, there was a lot of other things that I was into.
Totally different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Royal Dano plays the judge on the show, and I'm a huge fan of him, and that was one of the last things he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just curious to know if it was like the movie. Glad to hear it wasn't.
No, and actually,
when I go back, I'll try to watch it.
Many people that were livid about the movie because the movie has a different tone, it has a different feel, it has Lynch doing something totally different.
Okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't have those lighthearted moments like the series. Okay. I personally am maybe not the perfect example, but I can watch it and like do whatever, in that movie. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah.
And
it really
is Lynchian, violent and graphic and very disturbing.
It's like, it's a movie, so we're gonna amp it up a little bit.
Okay.
Did you see the recent revival of Twin Peaks, by the way?
I did, but I saw it when I was like half dead, so I want to watch it again. It was like right before I went into the hospital in 2017, 18. So I can't wait to watch it again. But I also heard, and I could tell that also, like, they say that it all goes together, but it doesn't really all go together. Like, the return can exist in a different world than the 1990 series. So I think you can watch each part. I benefited like from watching things in order, but that's because maybe I've seen them before. So I was trying to get something different out of it. I think that when you're just approaching his stuff, I don't think that there is necessarily any order, even with the Twin Peaks world.
Okay.
All right.
And definitely don't judge the series on the movie.
Okay, good.
Totally
yeah, well, I'm going to go back and try to watch the series, eventually, when I get some more time.
Yeah,
so,
it's a good watch. It's a good watch.
Good to know.
It's much more accessible.
It's got a lot of interesting people in the series, so I mean, I'm sure that the character work on it is wonderful. So,
and it's much more linear.
Character work.
It's much more.
But it does have those Lynchian elements. It does get weird toward in the later season. So as the show goes on, but anyway,
I think Manny and I were really fortunate because we were introduced to him the way that he, the way that he came up, right? And that was you can't, like, I can't tell you how to do that. And it's the time has passed, but that really was the best introduction to somebody like him and to see him build off of what he had done before.
Okay. Well, my introduction, I'm just going to go ahead and jump in on my number two, or my number one rather. Is uh, is in fact his second film, which is The Elephant Man.
Yeah, same here.
That I thought, what a brilliant! I never saw Eraserhead before that,
No.
but I jumped in with Elephant Man, and I thought, wow, what is this? And then knowing that it's based on a true story, but incredible performances from William, not William Hurt, from John Hurt and Anthony Hopkins
Yeah.
as the Doctor, and Hurt as the Elephant Man, as John Merrick. Oh, I mean, what an awesome piece of film that is.
And one of the best villains ever in Freddie Jones. Oh my God, what a sleazeball! He's wonderful in that. He's so nasty.
So I've never seen it, but
oh wow,
there won't be spoilers. I had to make the conscious decision not to watch it because I don't think I can emotionally handle watching it. So it is one of my honorable mentions because I think that if somebody is able to watch it, then they definitely should.
It's an Academy Award nominated film as well as Golden Globe nominated, and there's a reason. It's just a very, very wonderfully put together film.
Because I hate that I can't see it, but I know I just can't see it. So I watched people explain it, and I read all the critics stuff, and I wish I could watch it, but it's emotionally an honorable mention.
Oh yeah, it's emotionally devastating, but so that's why.
Have you heard Mel Brooks talk about it? That was my favorite. Hearing Mel Brooks.
He was
he was a producer. Yeah, he was a producer.
Right, I know. Who would have it?
Yeah,
it's beautiful, and definitely. I think
he didn't want to attach his name to it because he didn't want audiences to think it was a comedy.
Right, I know.
Yeah. So, but that's why Anne Bancroft is in it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
Freddie Jones.
It's a heartbreaker.
I really don't think I could take it. I wish I could. Maybe when I'm healthier,
one day.
It makes me sad that I can't see it because I know that's such a pivotal thing, and I love the fact that The Straight Story, I opted not to see it at the time, and now I really regret it because I didn't have an appreciation for comparing what he does with watching him do something that would be maybe more mainstream or more traditional. And so now that's definitely something I hope I can go back and revisit.
So Rory, did you say that was your number one as well?
That was my number one as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
So by far it's number one. Yeah.
Well, I can see it's a little more linear than
it is
some of his later films, so I can see why you would appreciate it. Even though it was in black and white, you liked it. Even though it was in black and white.
Even though it was a black and white film. I was going to say that to Elana. I'm not a big fan of black and white films, especially if you can afford color.
He talked about why it was black and white, and I highly recommend. If you haven't seen the interview, that is one of the things that he believed that it had to be in black and white, and
and if there is a purpose for it, I'm on board with it. But like Ed Wood, for instance, shot by Tim Burton, that was in black and white for a reason, and I'm on board for that. But movies that could have been color, but they just, because of budget, they just went black and white. I hate that.
The funny thing is
he
uses black and white because he uses it in other movies too.
Oh, and there were other movies he wanted to shoot in black and white, and the studios didn't want to take the chance that people would not show up because it was black and white.
Yeah, and it's hearing him talk about it. I gained an appreciation, but I also was kind of like he said something to indicate that black and white equals the past, and that was kind of I don't know how I feel about that statement, but he seems to really believe the past things should be in black and white. So
Hmm.
I'd like to do some more research on that because I hope there's more of a reason.
Well, I
than
can
just,
see
like, the
that.
past
Yeah, I can
equals
see-
black
yeah.
and white.
Yeah, if you're doing a TV show like The Munsters, which is basically paying homage to the Universal classic monsters, yeah, black and white. Go black and white,
Right.
obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It seemed like a blanket statement, which is weird.
wish that we could see it all in color too. You know, give us
Yeah.
both options.
Well, the one thing we are very fortunate about is that he always used film, and so his movies are gorgeous. I mean, if he
Mhm.
would have used color,
Mm.
Rory disagrees.
No. Inland Empire. This is the biggest problem I have with Inland Empire is its handheld video camera, and it
Yes.
just looks terrible to me. And I love Laura Dern. She's a gorgeous, beautiful woman, and she looks so bad in that film because it's all in grainy video camera,
Yeah.
you know, shaking around. You know, if I want to throw up at a movie, I'll watch the Blair Witch Project again.
Oh God.
You know.
Yeah.
That's at the bottom of my list is Inland Empire because he made the decision to do that, and it just looks terrible to me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta admit,
can
I
see that.
haven't seen it yet. So,
Mhm.
all right. So what's your number two, Lana? Let's move this
Oh
along.
my goodness. Okay, so this was really hard. So let me see if I can remember. What was my number two?
If you gave your list to Renee, she can tell you.
What's
Two
my
guys
number
and two
two, Renee?
girls talking about movies.
Oh,
Renee, what's your
yeah, I
favorite?
have it right here. I can
Renee,
tell you. I can.
Well,
If
what
you
is
give me
your
just a
favorite,
second, I
Renee?
can tell you. Your
What is
number
your
two
favorite?
was Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet. What's
Blue
your
Velvet.
favorite, Renee? Real quick.
Elephant Man, just because I saw it when I was young and it profoundly affected me, and it was just so amazing. It was so profound. And I saw it when I was young enough where, for whatever reason, because it was in black and white, probably, I think I felt like it was a documentary. So I actually, till today, I feel like that was a documentary. And I've seen it again once I grew up, and it just came across as so real. And I
Yeah.
think it really shaped my entire life. So it's got to be Elephant Man.
You know,
I have to say
that's actually a fantastic point.
So good.
Because
I
yeah,
love
to me,
that.
I felt the same way. I guess not outwardly, but yeah, maybe inside there. I kind of felt the same way. Like this is like a real story, you know,
Right.
like a documentary about this guy. Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that's probably one of the reasons why he chose black
Yeah.
and white as well.
Yeah.
Because it gives it that documentary feel.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's a real story. It's a true story,
Right.
of course. Yeah, so
I
it
mean,
just
I
makes
guess
total
it's a
sense.
biopic. Is that what they call it? Because
Yeah.
I know it's more a documentary, but
Yep.
it's actually about
Biopic?
Merrick. And I think
Right,
they
yeah.
even talked to him, didn't they? When was Merrick? No.
Oh no,
He was
Merrick,
alive during
that was
Victorian
that was
era.
18.
I'm sorry.
Long
Of
gone,
course
yeah.
he didn't die.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
They
But-
changed
fact,
his
there's-
name for the movie, didn't they? It was I think the movie
Yeah, I
was
think it's something
John
else.
Merrick, but actually his
John
real
Merrick.
name was something else, like James Merrick or
I think so. Yeah.
oh, I don't
one
know.
or the other. Anyway,
And
But the impression I got was
but
that,
yeah.
you know, he was trying to be very true to, you know, the emotion that he must have been going through, which
yeah.
is also why I just don't think I can handle it right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it sounds beautiful. It really
so,
does.
so tell us about Blue Velvet, Elana.
Yep.
Okay, so imagine that you are alive in 1986 and that you go to a movie theater. Think about what is available to you, right?
Mhm.
Just on that point alone, I love Blue Velvet. Then you go to the
How
next
old were
thing.
you?
I'm sorry?
How old were you at that time?
Well, I mean, I did not see it in the theater.
Okay.
I was
Because I was
12.
like, oh, and you chose John Booth or Frank Booth?
So I was 12. But my
Daddy wants
follow-up
Blue
point-
Velvet.
My follow-up point is that when you watched it at that time, and I didn't because I was 12. So
Yeah.
in a couple of years, because it would take a couple of years for it to get to be accessible to the common public, right? So maybe I was 14.
Came out on VHS or something.
It was
now.
horrifying. And it
Yeah.
was like, but you know what it did? It really shaped my world. Okay, so I am a privileged girl from an Orthodox Jewish community, right? I don't know about any seedy underbelly of anything that is happening. I don't know that that exists.
Right.
All of a sudden, and even just like, I love the flowers and the picket fence, and it's idyllic. And even though I'm a city girl, I'm in Pittsburgh, and so we have neighborhoods. So I grew up in this giant Victorian that it looked like the house that, a storybook character would grow up in. And then all of a sudden he pans down to the worms and what's below it. I couldn't wait to get the hell out of my sheltered existence and see the world. Like, I didn't know that there were Frank Booths. And, there were problems in my idyllic existence. And I loved that somebody was not. So I come from a background where you whitewash everything, right? Everything's whitewashed. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody is the same. Everybody is, goes to same synagogues, and it's very close community. So I'm following Jeffrey. I'm like, oh my God, there's an ear. What the hell? Like, I am having every moment with him. I'm hiding in the closet. I'm sorry. What did you say, Rory?
Yeah, you were freezing up. You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh.
For me, anyway.
Okay.
She's
No,
fine,
she's
right?
not. She's not breaking up for me though. It might be, but Rory, your connection looks good on my end.
Okay.
Yeah,
just
I should go out and come back in.
The camera's weird, so like I keep moving it. It's on my iPad, and the camera's in this really bad place.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're centered.
So yeah, I mean, for me, it was just like, oh my God, like I was a public defender when I got sick. So like from, closed community, like, everybody, to being a public defender, that's what Blue Velvet did. Like, it changed my life. It made me want to do something different and see what's out there and, find mysteries. And it was so important to me.
Yeah, that ear.
Right,
scene.
find an ear.
I
want
at me, Elana.
And go find an ear. Less mold, though. That was a little gross.
Yeah. And Isabella Rossellini. Oh my God, so beautiful.
She has never done anything before. Like, he has the best luck. He just feels something in a person, and she is the only person that could have done that role.
Yeah.
I mean, and actually Frank Booth.
Yeah, Dennis Hopper. I put Dennis Hopper
amazing
as an A-lister.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And the point that I was also getting to is that shortly thereafter we have True Romance, and we have what was the other one that was basically the same thing? Oliver Stone's
Natural Born Killers.
Yes. So we have two movies immediately following it that are basically paying homage to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the impact you can't argue with.
Oh yeah. Cool.
They were trying to David Lynch it.
Yeah. Lynch it.
And then
Lynch
even
it.
just like the world.
That's horrible
I
thing to
love
say.
his world. The blue
he does.
curtains and every detail. He is clearly thought out. How do I make, like, one of the interesting things to me was that they asked Mel Brooks why he picked David Lynch. And they said because he takes something that's muddled and he makes it so clear, and everything goes to that. And you can really see that. I know. Well, if you're letting yourself get lost in the world and you're a fan of his, then you see that, and especially in Blue Velvet. So
yeah. I will admit,
talk about
I said the first time I saw it, it was like, what the hell did I just see? But I watched it again this weekend, and again, it made more sense to me. And I was like, okay, maybe I was a little too harsh on this one when I first saw it. And Dune too, because I saw the extended version of Dune this weekend, which had a lot more added to it.
I don't think I could. I shut Dune off halfway through. Like an extended version is like my nightmare.
So, but when it came out in the theaters, it was just like, I'm not following this. What the hell? What's going on here? So in any case, it was much easier to watch them this weekend than it was when I watched them when they came out in the theaters. And again, I was working in a theater.
Because I'm sorry to interrupt, but and I can ask both of you this, because I think there's a significant period of time between some of the movies that we saw when we were in our 20s and some of the movies that we've seen now. And I don't want to assume anybody's age, but I think that you're in, the same range as
I'm 60.
I am. Okay, so what was it like to watch it when you're 30 or however old you are, and watch it 30 years later?
Again, 82, I was 18. I was in high school. I was working in a movie theater. That one came out in 86, right? So that would have been
86.
22. Again, it was just very confusing to see Blue Velvet at 22.
Yeah.
And what really set me off was the stupid robotic animatronic bird at the end of the movie. And Laura Dern looks down and goes, "Wow, life is funny, isn't it?" Or something like that. And I'm like, what the hell?
There's the hell out of me too.
And I'm like,
that's like the one thing, and I get it, and I'm just like,
I don't know why that pissed me off so much when I was young, but it did. It was like, that bird looks so goddamn fake.
I didn't notice the first time, but this weekend I was like, go away, stupid bird.
Again, that was before CGI, so they had to do everything with practical effects. And again, trying to train a bird to land on your windowsill and give a little chirp and fly away or whatever is probably not easy.
Like, what is that? Have an ant or something? Yeah, you can't you basically have to be like, here, bird, act.
So, So anyway, Blue Velvet is my number 5 on my list. So we don't have to do my number 5 at the end. My number 2 was Wild at Heart. Strictly because of Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage in Snakeskin.
The performances are unreal. Yeah.
Great,
off the chain Cage. And that's where Cage actually started to be, what Nicolas Cage would become.
Yeah.
Doing his Elvis impression.
What about Willem Dafoe?
And Willem Dafoe, loved him.
Willem Dafoe got an Academy Award. Yeah. Very slimy.
Used to work in an art collective, a theater collective called the Worcester Group, and so I've been a fan of his since the mid '90s.
Yeah,
and
that's
I've
early
had the
Willem
pleasure.
Dafoe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's early Willem Dafoe, like around the time he was doing To Live and Die in L.A.
That was before he was a movie star, because he actually, I know a ton about him because he was in the Worcester Group, and he actually was married to and has a daughter with the director, the person, kind of like the head of it. And so I've been aware of him for a very long time. And to watch the transition, I've also seen Frances McDormand comes from there, and also Steve Buscemi comes from there. So I've had the pleasure of watching them in a black box small theater do different performances. Oh, wow. And watching him transition, to me, from that to Bobby Peru is because of course I didn't watch it in 1986, right? I watched it in the 90s. It just blew my mind. He's just so incredible. It was just So
that was my number 2.
Cool.
Yeah. Good choice.
I hated the makeup job on his nose at the end of the film, but
I miss Nicolas Cage. That was so oh my God.
But
it was so wild, and all of the Wizard of Oz references. I love that. Are we allowed to do spoilers?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love when the Good Witch appears to him and is like, "Lula loves you." And it's just go run and get her. And it's just
Yeah.
it's a great movie.
Well, I'll talk about Wild at Heart later.
Is it
my
on your
num-
list?
It's on my list. My
I have
number.
to say it's not on my list because I would have them all be on my top.
Yeah, I get that. No, my number 2 is actually. Oh wait, did I? Yeah, my number 2 is. Did I? No, my number 2 is Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive. Yeah. For some reason I thought we were number 3. No, number 2. I got
That's my
confused.
number 3.
So Mulholland Drive. When I saw this at the theater, you know, haven't seen Elephant Man and all that, and I thought, oh, another one from Lynch. So I went to see it, and I gotta admit, I was a little bit like Rory watching that, going, "What the hell did I just watch?" You know, Naomi Watts as this aspiring actress who may or may not have died, who may or may not have done this, and Laura Henning as this sort of mysterious woman. You know, was she in this car crash on Mulholland Drive? And it was just this mystery piled on a mystery, and then you get the twist where all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, did she just dream all this? And then you get that wonderful, like, Spanish, you know, Rory mentioned the music. There was that performance of crying. Yeah. Silencio. It's just the Club Silencio, and then the woman coming out and singing the song in Spanish, and then it just goes into and then there's this fog, and then all of a sudden we're in this alternate version of the story, and then you have her parents coming in, or their parents or grandparents creeping in, these little miniature. I'm like, what in the F? What in the ever loving F did I just see? But then I went back and I watched it again. You know, that's one of those things. You got to go back, even if it's confusing. You got to go back and watch it again, and I have several times. And kind of like Beetlejuice when he talks about The Exorcist. Yeah, I've watched it 500 times and it gets
167 times and it keeps getting funnier every time I see it.
Single time. I go back and I watched not Blue Velvet, but Mulholland Drive, and I'm like,
I watched Blue Velvet 167 times and it keeps getting funnier every time I see it.
Exactly. It just keeps getting better, and I'm like, yeah, I really appreciate this movie. Still, I don't know what the hell it's about, but I still love the performance.
After 167 times, yeah, you'll never know. Now, here's the problem, okay? But David Lynch has created this monster in himself where he is, quote, cool David Lynch. Ooh. and I'm aware of that, and that pisses me off because he's just trying to be weird for weird's sake, because that's his thing, and that pisses me off sometimes. Come on, just tell a story, damn it! Tell a story, give us some good characters, throw in some good music.
There is one of,
like, that's what all the critics say.
Mulholland Drive.
I know, and that's definitely a reading. Like, I can see where that comes
from. The love scenes, awesome. Man.
Mulholland Drive has one of the best jump scares that I've ever seen in something that's not strictly a horror movie. When the homeless guy or whatever comes around the corner, all of a sudden the two guys are just kind of nattering, talking, and all of a sudden he just pops out of nowhere. I jumped. My heart leapt out of my. I felt my soul leave my body.
Oh my god!
So scary. Obviously, it's not as impactful now that I know it's coming. But that first time seeing that,
and
holy
what did
cow!
it have to do with anything else in that movie?
It had nothing to do with anything else.
Okay, I have to admit, I have no clue. That is, loose end. I don't know. Like, I don't.
Why has this guy got black makeup all over his face?
I don't know.
Why is he there?
I think he was in front of a fire or something. I don't know.
But, it was like
I can't explain him. I don't understand. I don't know. There are always things that you don't understand, and then there are things that, like, honestly, you do notice at the 10th viewing that you did. I mean, if you're willing to put that in.
I'm not going to put that much effort into it.
Even just like 30 years later, just pop it in.
I'm not going to watch
Whatever
Mulholland
we're
Drive 30
using
years
at
from
the
now. I won't be
time.
alive.
Oh, it's my.
Well, if you are, it's, you know,
If I'm 90,
interesting way to
I am
spend
not going to be
90.
watching Mulholland. Well, okay, maybe the one scene, but
I don't understand. I don't understand that scene. I don't understand who that person is. You know, like in my mind, I'm like, is that Naomi Watts? Is that how bad that it got? But like, clearly not. I will say those little people that are running after her, because this
That was
bothered
scary
the
too.
hell out of me. They're the jitterbug judges.
Right?
But
Yeah.
how the hell does she not have a partner? You can't win a jitterbug contest by yourself. I don't like what that. Like,
So many questions.
so
There's-
yeah, so right
there's
off
always
the
one
bat-
character that stands out in a David Lynch movie, and the cowboy
Oh my
Yeah.
god,
In that
the
one,
cowboy. Love the cowboy.
really stood out. And you say, you know, you're leaving the movie going, what the hell was the cowboy all about? What,
Oh,
why
I
did he
don't
come to her
know.
and say it's time to wake up? What?
He
But,
he
yeah,
was
That's the
scary,
Robert
though.
Blake character.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like the Mystery Man, but I
Yeah.
can't exactly place him.
Is he really there?
I know, right? Why do you have to go so far away and like go like where you might get electrocuted to go hang out with him? I don't understand that part.
So
All right.
I think it was kind of, well, I have one more thing to add to it. I think it's kind of fascinating. You know, from the very beginning, because I'd already seen it before, I was hooked on the fact, why does she not have a partner? I know how to jitterbug. I can't do it by myself. Like, I kind of, because I went in there with like, okay, just let it wash over me. One of the things he talks about is channeling, that he has an idea and he has to serve the idea. And like, I have that too with my writing. Like, I will think of something until it becomes an actual something, and then I'll write it down. And so I was thinking, like, oh my God, I'm sorry. One of the problems is that I get on a path and then I forget what I was saying.
You were doing a weave, and then all of a sudden,
you're talking
get
about your
off
writing.
teleprompter.
You were,
So because the jitterbug thing
Channeling.
was bothering me, and then you get a flash of blankets, and then the movie starts. For the first time of viewing it, I was like, it's not real. None of this is real. So I kind of just watched it as if it was not real until like the part where it very glaringly obviously becomes real. I was not expecting to like Lost Highway, and I was not expecting to like this, and I was not expecting to like Inland Empire. They call that the LA trilogy. And to me, I got a message from it this time, and I don't know if it's right or not, but my message was, it's about going to Hollywood, having a dream, and how horribly, like how, if we consider that he might be a horror movie creator in a certain way, then this is the horror, is you are bright-eyed, and you know the acting was so weird, like, hi Betty, and her name's Betty, like Betty means like pretty girl, you know, like she's imagining all of these amazing things happening when really Hollywood eats you up and spits you out. And that is the same thing that happens to Fred in Lost Highway, and the same thing that happens to Nikki in Inland Empire.
Yeah.
And it is being told to you, you know, in the 90s and in the early 2000s. And we didn't talk about it then. So it's kind of fascinating that he started the conversation. And Mulholland Drive
Yeah.
Lynch is definitely making a commentary on Hollywood and how Hollywood is to people. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
doubt.
Exactly. That's what I was.
Well,
yeah.
and he's actually said numerous times, like, he didn't get final cut on Dune. It destroyed him, and he opted to make lower budget movies because he didn't ever want to be in that position before. Again.
Right.
And
yeah.
so that really led him, like, I would rather make what I want to make. And as someone, like, that's how I am with my stuff. And so even if I didn't like what he was doing, which I love what he's doing, I would still really have a lot of respect for him.
Cool. All right. So what is your number 3? What is your third favorite film?
Wait, that was my third favorite.
Oh, okay, that was your third. Okay.
Sorry, I kind of jumped the gun.
no
Mine
problem.
was, yeah, that was my third.
Okay. Rory, what was your third?
Dune,
Okay.
Sting, Freddie Jones again, Kyle MacLachlan, Kenneth McMillan as Baron Harkonnen stood out with me at the time and now. It was a great performance. That put Kenneth McMillan on the map as a villain. I mean, he had done Salem's Lot as the sheriff, but yeah, he was better used in Dune, I think. Surprisingly, Patrick Stewart and Everett McGill, 2 character actors, that's just the only thing that they ever did for David Lynch. And that's weird because they're really good actors, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that he never worked with them again, but because again, he likes to use the same actors, especially if they're good.
But I think you probably have to take pay cuts to work with him. That's the impression that I got.
Maybe he couldn't afford them. Dean Stockwell.
Dean Stockwell. He's been in several.
Again, appeared in Blue Velvet later, and then even later he appeared.
I mean, but what can we say about Dean Stockwell? He's amazing.
Stockwell's the weird character. In Blue Velvet with the makeup and everything. And,
he's incredible.
That reminds me to mention that Robert Blake came up with his own look for the Mystery Man. And Lynch loved it. And you could definitely see this Dean Stockwell influence from Blue Velvet in what he did. But he got his hair cut real short and parted in the middle. He did that himself. He put the makeup on and everything. And very, very creepy, interesting character. And that was it. That was his last performance, him and Richard Pryor in that movie. Dune was visually striking. I mean, sometimes they were trying a little hard to look like Star Wars, and I don't know if that was Lynch or if it the studio maybe.
The studio.
I think it was probably the studio.
Yeah, let's make it look like Star Wars. You'll go see it. The music. I went out and bought that album right after the movie came out because I really, really liked the music. I can't remember who did the music. It was a rock band.
ELO.
No.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I think.
No.
Still not.
Anyway, it was very memorable, and I liked the music. I listened to the hell out of that album. That was my favorite part of the movie. So that was my number 3. What's your number 3?
Can I ask you a quick question first? As somebody who watched it about 1984 and shut it off halfway through, do you think that no? Okay, thank you.
No, I didn't shut it off. I couldn't because I was working in the theater, so I was watching it bits and pieces, as an usher going in first, and then I watched it full the way through, and I still couldn't understand it. It was confusing to me.
Okay.
But I watched it all the way through because again, visually striking, music was great. I just figured it wasn't my cup of tea at the time. I didn't realize that it was a very short cut of something larger and again, that makes sense. I mean, Dune is like a really thick book. And he had to jam a lot. Yeah, he had to jam a lot into that. And of course,
it sounded like it was set up for failure. I mean, hearing him talk about it, and I understand like he's sore about the situation, but he did get offered Star Wars, I believe, partially on the merit. I mean, he didn't take it, but because he decided he didn't want to do big budget movies anymore. But I
The
know
story that I
he
heard was
offered
that George Lucas, had been offered Dune earlier, and he decided to do Star Wars instead.
Okay.
His own thing. And he was very grateful afterwards that he did that he made that decision, and they ended up giving it to David Lynch. And again, Star Wars had already made all of its money by the time Dune came out. So
Well,
again, the
before-
studios
yeah.
probably forced him to cut the time so they could do more showings of this
Yeah.
epic film.
Well, I think
which
they
is
both. I think it worked out well for both of them. I think David Lynch, like, to me personally, if he was, you know, the thing that makes him so amazing is that he has free reign. And he wouldn't be able to show me the worlds that he shows me, or, you know, has the impact on me that he does, and all of his other, you know, diehard fans. You know, if he was concerned, like, about making ends meet on your budget and stuff like that, which is,
Right.
you know, the number one thing that their big studios were concerned about at that time.
All right. Well, my number 3 was Blue Velvet, which we've already discussed. So we can move on.
Were
from
you
there.
flip-flopping? I was flip-flopping between Mulholland and Blue Velvet. I was like,
I was,
Awesome.
but Mulholland Drive, to me, I love that movie. I know it's confusing, it's weird, but I think I love it because of that. It's just, you know, and you're right. I see it as a very kind of jaundiced critique of Hollywood and the pursuit of stardom, you know, and the cost of it. You know, physically, psychically, you know, on somebody who's not prepared for that lifestyle. So, all right. So Blue Velvet, Isabella
So the
Rossellini.
acting. I'm sorry. Are you going to say more about Mulholland Drive? Because I just also want to.
No, I think
acting
I
is.
think I've beat that horse to death already.
Okay. I just want to throw, you know, Naomi Watts and Elena Herring.
Naomi Watts and
Incredible.
Yeah, and double on that one.
Yes, indeed.
Well, see, and I love that too, because there's a lesbian relationship that is taking place unabashedly.
Yeah.
And what year was that? That was like 2001 or something? 2001.
Yeah. 2001, yeah. So, I mean,
that's not
Lynch is he's always ahead of his time. Yeah. So, okay, I guess we're at number 4 now.
So I think we pretty much discussed. My number 4 was Lost Highway.
Okay, all right. Mine is Wild at Heart. So we've talked about that one. And can we just say the scene that immediately comes to my mind is poor Willem Dafoe getting his head blown off in that very, and then his face just falling to the dirt. And you know, that's the only thing. It's like Wild at Heart. What is that? Oh, is that the one where the guy his head gets blown off? I'm like, how did that even happen? You know, he trips, he's got the shotgun, and kaboom. I'm like, what in that? And I was like, it was just this very graphic moment in this otherwise, you know. But again, like I said, we have the recurring cast: Laura Dern, Isabella Rossellini, Harry Dean Stanton. You know, was McLaughlin in it? I forget.
That's the one that Willem Dafoe is the
and Willem Dafoe is the villain in. Yeah. Oh, what's the lady's name? I always forget. And Diane Ladd is in this movie.
Right.
So yeah.
By the way, the music for Dune was done by Toto.
That's right.
And some songs by Brian Eno.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think includes
Toto. Eno used to do like everything at that time.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool though, if you think about it, that he got Toto to do the Dune soundtrack.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been Tangerine Dream, but
I love his music is my music. Like there's a story that he wanted to get. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the label 4AD, but there's a label 4AD where like the Cocteau Twins, a lot of shoegazers run. The Cocteau Twins run.
Cocteau Twins.
They have these. All the bands got together and they did these compilations, and it's called This Mortal Coil. And his very favorite song that he actually wanted, and as soon as he had the money, he bought, is one of my all-time favorite songs called Song to the Siren by This Mortal Coil, which is actually the vocals are Elizabeth Fraser from the Cocteau Twins. So I really liked that. I mean, I love all the Julie Cruz stuff. I love Angelo Badalamenti. I love Christabel. Like I love whatever kind of music he's working on. It's something different, and it usually has this very ethereal aesthetic that I really love.
Yeah. That's one of the things that really, going back to Twin Peaks, the music, Badalamenti's music just stands out. That nice slow theme that he does. In fact, I bought it on a single cassette. I still have it somewhere.
I
awesome.
wore out Firewalk with Me. With Me. Yeah. I wore that CD out. That is one of my favorite
the music.
soundtracks.
I mean, if anything, the music definitely stands out. But before Lynch was going to do Dune, a director named Jodorowsky was going to do it. And in fact, H.R. Giger, who went on to do Alien, did a lot of production design for that movie, as well as some of the guys who designed for Star Wars as well. So it was going to be a whole big thing, but then like financing fell through or something happened.
Yeah.
And his version never got made. And then they handed it to Lynch later on, which he was just coming off of Elephant Man. I mean, this is like his third movie. So that was a tremendous thing. All right, so my number 5, I'll just jump ahead. My number 5 is Dune, as a matter of fact. And I saw it at the theaters again. And I had read the book like years and years before, so I'd forgotten a lot of the details. I thought, oh, I'll see the movie, and I enjoyed it for what it was, what I remembered. And but again, the cast is just tremendous. Kyle MacLachlan, Francesca Annis, Everett McGill, like you said, Sean Young, and of course Patrick Stewart, who went on to play Captain Jean-Luc Picard on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Just had to mention that. Richard Jordan, who I remembered from Logan's Run.
Yeah.
Just again, tremendous cast. Regina Madsen as the princess. Jose Ferrer. Oh my God, I just go on and on.
Yeah.
Sting, of course. Just an incredible cast. I mean, the story that followed the book, like I said, it of course, big chunks of it had to be cut out of the book, and I don't know if a lot of that made it into the deleted scenes. I remember when they showed it on TV, they restored a lot of stuff. They also added a lot of like animated things, to kind of like filler material that I thought, oh, why? Like, did they lose the original footage? Or what is that about? And I hated the TV version of the movie.
They played it as a miniseries?
No, it was just like an extended version. It's like a 3-hour version of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff they added in was like these animated pieces that seemed just so out of place with instead of like movie footage. So yeah, that kind of ruined it for me. But I actually enjoyed the theatrical version, and I had no idea that stuff had been cut out. So anyway, So yeah, so that's my top 5.
My 5th, we also pretty much talked about, was Fire Walk with Me.
Oh, okay.
So I think that also highlights the difference between, Twin Peaks was number 1 for
Series,
me,
yeah.
but this was number 5. It's very different. My favorite story, and I mean, I've always been fascinated with true crime. So to me, at that age, Who Killed Laura Palmer was just fascinating. So to get to see the 3 days that happened, I have to say you definitely have to suspend your disbelief, because there's some things that you're just like, I don't really get it. But it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's pretty linear. And I definitely think it's worth seeing, but I think that people get really upset sometimes because the tone is so different. And I think that's also important to remember, that the twin, they're like Legos. They can go together, they cannot go together. So,
well, I think the thing, Rory, and I don't mean to speak for you, but you mentioned having seen the movie without having seen the series.
Yeah.
And I think that because the series really gives the movie context.
Mm.
And I think you would understand the movie a little bit better, because it's
I thought
kind
that
of
might be the
a
case.
prequel. It's kind of a prequel to what happens in the
honestly,
series.
It was 1992 when the movie came out. It was my first year of college, and I watched it. And I think I was probably too young to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I never watched it again until this weekend. And this
Mm-hmm.
weekend, it made perfect sense to me. I was very delighted to see it. The parts of it that I thought I hated, like, I was like, not all about it. I just wanted to buy the CD because I was obsessed with the soundtrack. Like, I liked him, but it was like, But like, I don't know, over the years, and now I'm a little worried about what this says about me. But I've become like just this huge Leland Palmer fan. Like, my friend went to a con, and I got to say hi to Ray Wise, and I was just like, oh my god, I got to say hi to Ray Wise. And I'm not
Ray
like,
Wise is awesome. Yeah,
I don't get like that. Like, I think all people are just regular people. Like, I don't care if you're famous or whatever, but there's just something. The movie has him as the focus is much more on him, and that's horrifying, but it's also beautiful. So I keep saying beautiful. I just think David Lynch is beautiful.
he's a handsome man. Got it.
But I love that, like,
I love the hair.
I love that he's different. I just
look at that. Look at that face.
Look at that David Bowie hair.
Yeah.
Look at that hair. My God.
And I love that he's so
hair
normal
envy.
looking, and I love that, like, he is duality.
Exactly.
Because I personally fully accept good and evil, and I think that they both need to exist. And I love that he embraces that. And that's every single movie embraces it.
Well, maybe that's what the movies are about. It's about that duality of
an identity, and what that does to your identity. And also your memories. Like, are they reliable? Are they not reliable? That's something that came up for me a lot with the mystery man in Lost Highway. Is, does the camera tell you the truth? Does the camera not tell you the truth? Like, you're getting these, facades of the house, but why should I rely on that? And I think a lot of that might also come from, if you think about where we were in technology when we first saw these movies, or when these movies first came out, as opposed to now. Now if somebody sends you a picture of the front of your house, it's like, okay, well, I have a elaborate security system that does that for me. Thank you. It's just such a different world.
I think Lynch is also one of these directors that leans into the idea of film as artifice. that
Yeah.
hey,
Oh,
we're watching a
absolutely.
movie. We're not watching reality. And so he plays with that like some other directors, a lot of foreign directors do, you know, the French New Wave directors like Truffaut and Fellini, they did that.
That's
It's like, you know, we're watching images on a screen. This is not real
right.
life. And so we're going to play with that. We're going to play with that very idea of reality versus, you know, imagination.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things actually that kept making me when I was watching Mulholland Drive. So one of my very favorite movies like of all time is Persona by Ingmar Bergman. And I don't think I realized this before, but Mulholland Drive, I just kept thinking of I don't know if the two of you have seen Persona, but there is you have to see Persona. It is so good if you are a Bergman fan at all. But there's a lot of symbolism and a lot about like the women. There's a woman, and then there's a woman that's paid to help the woman that is not doing so well. And I don't want to give more away, but it's about where they begin and where they end, and you know where their identity is and the reliability of memory. And I did some research into it, and he admits that Persona did influence him. And so I think that there are a lot of things, even though he doesn't usually tell people what his movies are about, he definitely gives clues. There are so many clues that I picked up. Like one of the ways that I got the LA trilogy being about the horrors of Hollywood is because he was talking about Sunset Boulevard. You know, one of the ways that, you know, I just, and I guess that's something that you don't have the first time you see it. You know, like I was, let's say 20. I didn't have the canon of knowledge that I have now. And so now I can go back and I can be like, wow, Mulholland Drive really reminds me of Persona in these ways.
Okay, so the trilogy is Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire, and
Lost Highway is the first
Lost
one.
Highway is part of the LA trilogy.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And I was shocked because honestly, I knew that I loved Twin Peaks and there was never a question in my mind. I remembered the LA trilogy, and it did not include Inland Empire because Inland Empire was made in 2006 and nobody would fund it. And so it went, Lynch put it out on his own, like straight to video or whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
Because he wanted people to see it because of the message. But I just fell in love with the LA trilogy. I think that's, I don't know. I look forward to seeing his stuff in a decade, and you know where I am and what it means to me at that point. So Rory, how do you feel? Did you tell us your top 5? Your 5th?
Actually, I still have 4 and 5 to do, but my 5 was Blue Velvet, which we've talked about, you know, ad nauseum, and we have not really talked about Eraserhead, which is my number 4. And this
of course,
this is the only Lynch film that's really weird that I really like, and it's in black and white.
Nice.
It's such a bizarre, weird story, but I like it. I mean, it's fun, and I love all the characters. I especially love the woman in the radiator. She's adorable, and those big chipmunk cheeks. And I'm surprised she never did anything else besides that character.
She is so cute.
She's that little dance she does. It's hysterical. It's just so minimalistic, and it's just funny. So yeah, that movie is just really bizarre and weird and creepy and funny, and at the same time it's weird. It's hard to be creepy and funny at the same time, but there it is. So I could see how that would become a cult midnight movie. And again, it's in black and white. but he had to do it black and white because he couldn't afford to do it any other way. I mean, it took him like,
Oh, yeah.
I think almost a decade to make it.
Yeah.
And I had not seen it in its entirety. I just seen clips of it until this past weekend, and I really liked it. It was like, it was one of the first things I watched. So
I can't believe that we're just now getting to Eraser.
Yeah,
I know, right?
So that was his first one. Yeah.
I was going to mention that.
And again,
That's one of my
made
honorable
It's an
mentions.
honorable mention for me because honestly,
we've talked about all my honorable mentions already, so I don't have any more mentions.
Okay, I can't watch it again. Honestly, I love Eraserhead. I think it's just fascinating. It's brilliant. It's so inspiring, and I have seen numerous times like a number of his shorts, which actually I'm obsessed with the Criterion like collection and now channel. And I loved just, seeing Eraserhead on, there were like a ton of shorts. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen like 6 Men Getting Sick, like all of these things. And that's also why it's so cool to watch his progression, because if you see these, you see what will become certain visions from Eraserhead. Mm-hmm. And like, the other thing I want to throw in there just real fast, which is kind of like political, but just real fast, is he was coming up exactly when the AFI grants and the NEA grants were available. And I want to mention, because this has been something that's really a big issue for me, how important those grants are, because that's the only way that we have somebody like him. There's Mel Brooks took a chance, thank goodness, but how many people would be willing to take grants? And he just wanted to make movies and just make enough so that people could have that be what they do. And we were set up in our government at that time where those things were looked at as benefits to society. And so, yeah, I'm kind of a political person, so I just wanted to throw that in there because, I mean, not having David Lynch and the countless other directors who were able to create their visions because of it, it's, I'm so grateful that existed and that worked the way it did at that time.
Cool.
And we had an actor as president at the time, right?
What was because so in grad school, one of the big things I studied was the NEA 4, which was in 1984. There were 4 performance artists that were defunded. So they had NEA grants and then they were taken away. And that was when they did all the obscenity laws. And it's obscenity if we believe it to be obscenity, like you can see it when it exists. And it's really hurt our culture and I think our society. I mean, art is such an important film. So the one thing that I also want to say is that watching David Lynch is a little funny because yes, there is time on it, but you really have to leave your suspension of disbelief at the door, because some of the overlays, some of the like I'm thinking of Lost Highway. There's this picture of Alice that's just like moving around. Do you guys remember that scene? Alice is Patricia Arquette. It's in Lost Highway when she's supposed to become a different person. Remember? Right. So she goes, and her face. They show
the picture and it's got both of her characters in it at one point.
Right.
And then they go back to it and one of the characters is gone.
Yeah.
Right?
But the overlay is just like it could be ridiculously funny and ruin the movie if you does that make sense? Like it's just like this head floating around. Yeah. But that's also why he, gets to do stuff like that, is because he got grants. So
there is.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna give you this grant so you can be weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it
Somebody give
is.
me a
My
grant so I can be
goodness.
weird.
I mean, like at the time, and I believe still, the end is always money. And so when you have people that don't want to sacrifice their creativity, just want to be able to do their work and, live, it's really important and it should be valued more. So sorry, I didn't want to turn this into like
Well, again, it is a business. You got to understand that,
Absolutely.
And again, he's poked fun of that in his movies.
Absolutely.
I mean, the whole scene where they were saying, she's going to be the actress. Which one? Was that Mulholland Drive?
Yeah, I think that was Mulholland Drive. Yeah, you just say
the creepy ass
this
executive
is
producer at the top of the ladder, that they have to go to, and the whole thing with the coffee.
Coffee seems to play a big part in his movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you get that a lot. Yeah. Well, if you ever watch Twin Peaks, if you get a chance to watch it, coffee pie make a very big impact.
It's all about coffee and pie.
It's all about the coffee and the pie. Yeah. Those
if
little indulgences. Yeah.
If you want to try to get back into him and give him a chance, I don't know. I think that the 1990 series is a good way to do it. I loved it. I was like 16, so I didn't know what I was watching.
Well, I was in my 20s, so so it's a little bit. Actually, it might have been in my 30s at the time. I don't know. I'm an old fart, so.
I mean, I think that's great, though. I think that I personally am just happy to have made it to 50, and so I welcome every year because of what I'm going through.
Me too.
But at the same time, I love the fact that I feel like every person is a history book, and so you are history. I'm a half a century history book. And
there you go.
It's amazing when you look at what especially, we've lived through all of these. I don't know, dare I say that we were as far as technology and as far as, other things, like people haven't seen so many things in their life. We lived through September 11th and we lived through just so many different things. I think that it's incredible. And so you have to also take that into consideration when you watch a movie like this. You're going to watch something that's not necessarily linear and traditional and telling you what the movie is about. You're going to put those 50 years or whatever of experience into your viewing. And that's really, I think we're lucky to get to do that.
Yes, ma'am. Renee, do you have any commentary? Do you have anything to add to this?
I mean, having Elana on means that we go really deep, right? Because she comes prepared. That's what I told these guys in advance. I was like, Elana's going to be very prepared. She's an attorney. Hero. She's precise.
Everybody's watching them all weekend. They're like, oh my God, Elana's like cramming every single David Lynch movie.
Oh, they'll tell you that for every show, I go back and try to find as many of the films as I can and watch them before.
So I feel like we got a master class on David Lynch. Like anyone who wants to know about David Lynch, like I learned a lot because I haven't seen that many of his movies, and I'm always telling myself I'm going to. So now I have a direction. I know exactly which one to start with and all that. And that's because of what you guys.
God, I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. So then I get to like nerd out about it after the fact because you guys guided me, and so I absolutely love that.
I really think that Renee will like Eraserhead.
That's what I'm starting with. I'm definitely gonna start.
That's a good
start at the beginning. Start at the beginning.
Oh my goodness! It is wild. You have to see it.
I
Yeah.
saw the trailer and I was like dependent, like the trailer itself, I was like, what is even happening right now? My consciousness just got exploded. But I love experimental films, and I love films that make you think, and I love films that make you keep coming back and seeing something new. I mean, that's kind of my thing. So
Well,
I know
then
I
you're
need to
gonna
be watching David Lynch and
then
his
you're gonna
more
love
experimental
Lynch.
stuff.
You'll
Yep.
like it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll
I will. I'm gonna
definitely
love it. Yeah.
appreciate it. I mean,
So I'm
I can't
excited
watch
to do that then.
Eraserhead again, but it was one of the last. Well, I mean, when I was in like my 20s, it was one of the last movies I watched by him, and it was like, I have to. Like, how can I say I'm a fan if I haven't seen this movie?
Yeah.
And I
Except for
don't want
Elephant
to
Man.
see it again, but I'm thrilled that I can speak about it and that I had that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is great, and I really am proud of this episode because, like I said, it's so cool it's like an MFA level. You basically get your MFA and David Lynch and certain types of experimental movies and
I love
nonlinear thought.
this. Thank you
Yeah.
for letting me pick Lynch. I was like, they're either gonna love this or hate this. So-
No, it was great. Great. Yeah.
It was really great, yeah.
And we've converted Rory to a fan now. He's gonna buy all of them on DVD
Oh my
and
god,
Blu-ray
wait,
now.
he has an open mind about it, right?
I don't know if I go that far, but
Oh,
You
oh
did
my
ask
goodness.
but I may go
about
back and watch Twin
1990
Peaks.
series, so I take that as
Do watch
as
Twin
a-
Peaks, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So,
I'm probably gonna go back and watch Twin Peaks. So you've got me
Oh.
there.
I love that.
Yeah,
I totally love that.
excellent. All right. So what is coming up in the week ahead?
Well, at 10 p.m. tonight, we have Rory Penland and I will be live with Carrie Harrison for a new edition of Carrie Harrison Files, and he's going to debut a never before seen conversation that he had with Hillary Clinton.
Oh, wow.
And so we have that clip and we're going to play it. And she talks about Trump and some other things apparently. And so
she's terrible. She's terrible, I tell you. As she talks about me, terrible lady,
nasty
very nasty woman.
She's a nasty woman. And so we're going to hear from the nasty woman herself tonight.
Oh,
and
wow.
so 10 p.m.
So
So tune on
timely.
in.
I vote tomorrow.
Woo! All right.
Yes, and after you vote,
Yeah.
watch Roland Pruitt's Kaiju Review, where they're going to talk about King Kong versus Godzilla, the original team-up matchup.
Yeah.
And
I'm
Linda Miller.
I'm gonna throw my thing out there again. If you ever want to talk about Bates as a monster, I'm your girl.
Linda Miller, who was in King Kong Escapes, the Toho film, is going to be there to help us comment. This is the first time that she's ever commented on the other Kong film by Toho. So it should be interesting. And we got another guy from Instagram. He's got 45,000 followers. His name is Kaiju Combat. He's going to be on.
Nice.
Thursday, Ghost of Frankenstein, the original Universal monster movie, for the big monster briefing room in color. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And what are we doing next week on this show?
And next week on this show, in honor of Veterans Day, we're going to talk about our favorite war movies. So that's coming up.
Wow, that's a lot.
Next week.
That
is a lot.
Big...
And I want to keep it to movies about some more recent things. I mean, we're not going to go all the way back to the Peloponnesian War. We're not going to do 300.
Our favorite war movies.
But more
that
like
might be
World War
fun.
One, World War
That
Two,
could
World
be
War
the
Three,
cutoff.
Korean War,
World War Three. Get over
World
there!
War
I'm telling you right
We're
now.
it's gonna be World War Three.
World War Three after tomorrow. You watch.
So long,
It'll be
Mom.
a
I'm off to drop the
nightmare.
bomb.
Well, I
You
want to
don't.
say thank you so much for having me on and letting me just talk about how awesome David Lynch is. I really
It was an honor.
appreciate
The
it.
pleasure was ours.
It was an honor to have you. Please come
Thank
back.
you.
I'm just glad I didn't piss
I
you
would
off.
love to come back. I
Just let us
enjoy
know
your
when you want to come
show,
back,
and
and
this
we'll
was
put you on the
wonderful.
schedule.
Thank you.
Yeah. You want to talk about Ingmar Bergman next time? I'm your guy.
Oh yeah, so I would love that, and hopefully that will. Manny, have you seen Persona?
I have not. I've seen a few of his films,
Oh,
but I have not seen that one. So I'm looking forward to
okay.
watching that.
So I gotta give you guys homework. Everybody watch
Yes.
Persona.
All right. I'm there. All right.
I'm excited. Great.
All right. All right. Well, again, as we're recording this, it is tomorrow is November 5th, 2024. It's election day, so please do go out and vote. Vote like your life and your family's lives and your friends' lives depended on it.
Vote.
So please
Yes.
get out and vote. And until next time, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching this episode of Two Guys and Sometimes a Gal Talking About Movies. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get future episodes.